Hey guys, so Jin here again. Tonight we have the CAD interest rate news coming out at 11 p.m. tonight. So Canadian interest overnight rates, Canadian rate statement, Bank of Canada monetary policy report, and at 11:15 the press conference. 11:30 we've got Bank of England Governor Carney speaking, and also at 3 a.m. we have the FOMC meeting minutes. Okay, so quite a few news tonight. Main thing is I want to focus on the Canadian interest rates decision. If you had been looking at your Forex Factory even before today, you would have noticed that they were expecting rates to go from 1.75% to 2%. However, today we see that they have actually reduced that forecast. The forecast is now expecting rates to maintain at 1.75%. Okay, so expectation is for rates not to change, to stay at 1.75%. However, because of this likely no change decision, we will probably be paying a bit more attention to what they say in the rate statement, and also what is going to be said in the monetary policy report. In my view, what I actually think is, while they're not going to be changing rates, there will still before that, while they're not going to be changing rates, the main concern will actually be because of the global trade policy developments, the trade war between the US and China, the oil prices which has been actually quite volatile, even more so volatile recently, and also just the overall economic performance in Canada at the moment. Okay, so while they're not going to be changing rates this time, there's actually a lot of uncertainty outside of Canada, which is causing this wait and see decision that they are approaching right now. So because of that, we could see a little bit of weakness in the US CAD, in the Canadian dollar, so causing the US CAD to move upwards because of all the uncertainty and the decision to wait and see a little bit. But we have just seen the US CAD drop about 400 pips in 5 days. So 400 pips in 5 days. The US CAD has been dropping primarily because of a weaker US dollar. So because of that, we could actually see the current short-term trend is downwards on the US CAD. So if with all the uncertainty, a move upwards would be a counter trend move, which would also probably be not really sustainable. Okay, the overall view, the neutral range, rate range that the Bank of Canada is looking at is about 2.5 to 3.5% range. So at 1.75, they're likely to still be talking about future rate increases. Okay, because if they start talking about future rate increases, we could actually see the US CAD go lower, as we see it, potential strengthening of the Canadian dollar, so a potential move downwards, and this would actually be quite helpful, as it would be quite a trend following direction in this scenario. So for the US CAD at the moment, it's sitting after the drop this morning. It's really been sitting right across. If we see a bit of a weak Canadian dollar at the moment, when the news comes out, a short-term move upwards could be likely. A short-term move, I'm looking at something about not more than 100 pips move upwards. But if we see continual talk about rate increases in the future, so they held it now, but potential rate increases in the future, we could see a strengthening of the Canadian dollar, which would cause a further move downwards in the US CAD, and that could bring 100 pips or even more so coming downwards. Okay, right now it's sitting at 1.3235, so that's quite a good support and resistance level for the US CAD at the moment. So really nothing, no positions right now. You should be looking to see what they say at the statement before deciding a brief move upwards, or a stronger move downwards. Okay, following that, what I would pay a bit more attention to is not so much of the 11:30 Bank of England Governor Carney speaking, because he will be speaking about the future of money at the Bank of England's Future Forum. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of policy making decisions at that point. I had a question from one of you guys, students, asking whether the FOMC meeting minutes. Hang on, just let me bring up that question. Oops, gonna move this around a bit. Okay, so one of the questions was, what's the significance of the FOMC meeting minutes? Is it some sort of discussion that we will need to look out for, whether it's a hawkish or a dovish sentiment? So that was a question. For the FOMC meeting minutes, is basically giving you an idea of what was discussed in the previous meeting, in the December meeting. And if you cast your mind back, let me just make sure here. Give me a second. So if you cast your mind back, what happened in the December FOMC? Did they increase rates? Here, I'll just check. Okay, so in the previous, on December 20th, they actually went from 2.25 to 2.5%. So the US actually increased rates with a projection of whether they're going to further increase rates in 2019 or not, and how many times they're likely to do it. Okay, so coming to that decision of how many times they're likely to increase interest rates in 2019, that's where we focus on the minutes to tell us whether it was quite a everyone was on board with that kind of numbers, or whether some people were quite controversial, or whether it's quite a controversial decision. So I don't expect the meeting minutes to have a huge volatile reaction in the market. However, if there was actually quite a descent in the agreement on rates increase and the future rate increases, we could see a little bit more of move. At this point, I think the FOMC meeting minutes is going to be overshadowed by the current happenings in the US, which is the discussion about the war, the US-Mexico war, and also the current shutdown that they're experiencing. So I think the FOMC meeting minutes would be a bit of a non-event, in my opinion. So because of that, I would really suggest, trade or prepare and trade for the Bank of Canada rate decision. But after that, get some sleep. I wouldn't really bother about the FOMC meeting minutes. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it actually helps with your planning of a trade. Please let me know if you get any other feedback or suggestions or comments. I would be most happy to hear from you. Take care, trade safe, see ya.